Hello everyone, and welcome to a thing I might do every once in a while called Jack Rambles, where I'll just happen to ramble about things. Yeah. So anyway, what exactly could I talk about in this lackluster pilot to this new show that nobody's gonna watch even though they could just open a new tab and get the same effect anyway? Well, what I'm going to talk about is something that I thought would be somewhat interesting to come clean about for quite a while now. And this something in particular is a fear that I've had for like a year and a half. This fear that I had? Basically, I was scared of what people would think of my interests as I didn't want this to change the way they see me. I was pretty much scared of what people would think when I tell them what my interests are, as I don't deem my more recent ones to be mainstream or normal. It took me quite a while to overcome this as well, because I'm not really the most talkative or confident person in real life. Now, I'm obviously not the only one who's put up with this, but anime and music are the mediums where I let this fear affect me the most. So how and when did this whole paranoid interest bullshit fear start? Well, to start my story with it, in 2015, me and my dad went over to see one of his friends, and what started off as a casual conversation about having no charger for the new 3DS was a bullshit decision. That was the trigger for how I would end up feeling and what I would end up doing a few months later. So this friend we were hanging out with, he asked us if we had heard of or were familiar with Attack on Titan. You know, that one anime which gained a colossal amount of popularity amongst fans of the medium and has a long-awaited season which length was pretty much a smack in the face to everyone who waited 4 years for it. Yes, that anime. Anyway, after I did the first 10 episodes within a few weeks, I managed to gain an actual interest for anime in general. Not saying I wasn't interested in anime to begin with though. I was one of those kids who watched Pokemon, Sonic X, and Kirby Right Back at Ya, obviously not knowing that all of what I just listed were actually anime. But yeah, AOT, that was the anime that actually got me interested into anime itself. And my dad helped even more in that by showing me, oh, Netflix has an anime section. Which is pretty much how he introduced me to Gurren Lagann, and I began to expand my interest in the medium even more. So, as time went on, I spent the next 2 months watching that anime section, and along the way, sort of helped myself to a few starter animes, if you will. Sword Art Online, Death Note, Tokyo Ghoul, the kinds of shows that a newbie would obviously find flawless, especially if they were fans of video games, crime shows, those sort of things. So finally getting to my fear at this point, the more I got into it, the more titles I would watch, the more I would get anxious and scared about how my friends would react to my newfound interest. Compared to everything else such as TV or video games, anime is quite an obscure hobby, or at least I believe it is here in the UK. And it's not really something you'd hear everyone bringing up in a casual, everyday conversation between friends. I also got quite scared about what my parents were going to think once they found out, so what did I do? I kept it a secret from everyone. I tabbed out whenever they came into my room. I didn't want to tell anyone that I watch anime. I didn't want to tell anyone that I listen to anime openings on my iPods. I just didn't want to bring it up with anyone or join any conversations regarding it. I also kept calling myself the black sheep of my family just because I was the only one, outside of my dad who I would only see on weekends, who liked anime. This obscure medium that I highly doubted was remotely popular in the UK. Basically what was happening was, I kept expecting the worst reactions from my friends and family because of this, even though watching anime is no different than watching something like Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead. They were actually really close to finding out while we were on holiday in Spain before I tell them a year later, but that's just beside the point, I guess. And it didn't really help that I also happened to stumble across such cruel judgment and false weeaboo shaming with anime fans on a few occasions. That kind of gave me the impression that I just wasn't going to be appreciated for who I am as an anime fan. And even before then, I was scared of being called lame and weird just for liking it. And what I personally find just as ridiculous is that my fear of being called lame and weird expanded to the music I listen to. And honestly, I don't know what I should blame for this. Maybe it's just me now favouring rock over most mainstream music, but yeah. I could also blame me rekindling my interest for Guitar Hero and Rock bands, but that would just be too desperate at this point. The same fear and anxiety that I was feeling with anime at the time would also spread to whatever music I listened to. Whenever I came across a band that essentially sounded like this ancient diamond in the rough compared to everything else, I wouldn't feel proud of myself for discovering the band. Instead, my anxiety would just take over and force me to hide it the same way I did with anime. Such examples of these bands that I wanted to hide from everyone include but are not limited to Rhapsody of Fire, Within Temptation, Dream Theater, Symphony X, The Deer Hunter, basically a bunch of bands that I doubt anyone would really know about these days. Eventually, I became really fed up of feeling like this because I knew that I couldn't hide it forever, but at the same time, I didn't want people to think of me differently for what I like and enjoy. Finally, being able to get this feeling off my shoulders would allow me to be more open than I actually was and feel more comfortable. So after a year and a half of hiding anime and these obscure songs from my parents and friends, what did I do? Well, by September of 2016, I had actually moved into a new bedroom, as funny as that sounds. And for my birthday that year, I had gotten a curved smart TV, and guess what it happened to have on it? Netflix. So around the time I had just moved into this new pad, I decided to, what I feel like I did for no good reason at all, start watching Psycho Pass on this new TV. I think it may have been to test for Wi-Fi or Smart TV Netflix, but I still feel like I did it for no good reason outside of that. Also, this pad that was built for me wasn't fully finished. The door was still slightly wonky, which led to it being taken off for a day or two. So when I decided to watch more Psycho Pass that day, I had to come back to my pad in the afternoon to find out that my door had been mysteriously taken off. I watched the show as normal, but with that door taken off, I was pretty scared. I don't know if they were actually paying attention to the Japanese audio, but I was really expecting the worst reaction I could ever get out of them. And by tea time, I had accidentally thrown a fit and completely broke down in sadness like 5 minutes later. And for whatever reason, I figured that since I was so upset over what I had just done and how upset my family was feeling towards me because of it, it was time. I finally told them, in the most heartbroken and babyish way possible. I was crying, tears streaming like a waterfall down my cheeks, the works. However, once I had told them that I had become a fan of anime, they simply said, and I quote, "There is nothing wrong with watching Japanese cartoons," end quote. And I think I made a bunch of anime fans shoot themselves. But yeah, that was pretty much the point where I stopped crying and asked myself, what was I so scared about? Because in many ways, they're right. Anime really is no different from anything else, and if someone tells me to reevaluate my life or kill myself for liking this or that, well, that's their problem. I still put up with this quite occasionally. I don't really want to be as vocal about Minecraft story modes in real life as I am on my YouTube channel because, let's be honest, it's not really the best thing that Telltale has ever made. I personally save that honour for something like The Walking Dead or Wolf Among Us, and I'm still not a big fan of people asking me what songs I'm listening to, but other than that, the anxiety problem I had was pretty much fixed after that Psycho Pass incident. And that's pretty much all I feel like talking about for this lackluster pilot. I hope you all enjoyed me rambling about how much of a wuss I was for hiding my hobbies and interests from everyone. I don't really have any idea if I want to do this sort of thing again because I don't really consider myself much of a talkative or interesting person. I mean, yeah, these sorts of videos would obviously be good for multitasking, but still, I suppose whether this series will continue or not is really up to you guys. Until then, I'll see you later. Good day.